This is the lesson for March 2nd, page 148 and 149. Okay, so first off, the do now is based off the word quit. So, and the sentence or the prompt is, even when something is very challenging, I know I should not quit trying because blank. Okay, all right, so even when something is very challenging, I know I should not quit trying because, okay, blank. All right, so that will be your do now. All right, good. Make sure, hey, so with that being said, guys, I'm having to dock a lot of points for people not putting a period at the end of their sentence. Okay, the purpose of doing this is so that you guys will write complete, full sentences, okay, with a capital letter, with a period at the end, or a question mark at the end. Okay, so please make sure that you're not losing easy points because you forget to put a period at the end. Okay, all right, thanks. Now we're looking at the vocab and the final pages of this little story, the lottery. Okay. All right. So general means relating to a whole of something rather than part of it. Okay. So for example, if I'm talking about basketball, okay, I'm just talking about like there are so many things I could talk about with basketball, right? Okay. Or if I'm talking about school, okay, there are so many things we could talk about as far as school goes, right? Okay, but when I get more specific, okay, that's when I'm speaking generally about a topic. Yes, I like school, or basketball is a great sport, okay, um, or whatever it may be. I love to listen to music, okay, that's being pretty general, right? Okay, but that is compared to being specific about something. So if I were talking specifically about my favorite team, okay, I'm being more specific. Okay, whereas general is more, I'm relating to a whole, okay, like the whole topic of something rather than just part of it. Okay, more specific for school would be like your favorite class, Mr. Calder's class, right? Yes, good answer. Um, okay, so relating to a whole of something rather than part of it. Okay. Um, all right. So, what is the general feeling in your classroom on a Friday afternoon? All right. Well, we don't have school on a Friday afternoon, so let's think about on a Thursday afternoon. Usually, on a Thursday afternoon, the mood is different than a Monday afternoon. Do you guys agree? Okay. So, the general mood on a Thursday afternoon is you guys are usually pretty excited. You're usually, I don't know, kind of antsy to maybe get through the week. You got weekend coming up, things like that. So anyway, I want you guys to fill that part in. Okay, the next word that we're focused on is force. Okay, meaning is to use power to move something. Okay, to use power to move something. Okay, what might happen if you try to force open a stuck window? If you try to force open a stuck window, it might blank. Okay? All right. Um all right. So we are into the last pages. Okay? So we want to look at what happens at the conclusion of the story. At the conclusion, which is the end, which we'll be reading. Okay? What happens then? Okay? All right. Let's see. Which do the villagers seem to value more, tradition or human life? Use evidence from the text. They value blank. Okay, so then the stretch. What do you think happens to Tessie? Use text evidence to explain your inference. I think that blank. Okay. All right. Notice pictures. Remember the rocks that they were gathering before? I noticed there were rocks right here. Okay, let's read. The crowd was quiet. A girl whispered, "I hope it's not Nancy." And the sound of the whisper reached the edges of the crowd. Nancy was the little girl, right? "It's not the way it used to be," Old Man Warner said clearly. "People ain't the way they used to be." "All right," Mr. Summers said. "Open the papers. Harry, you open little Dave's." Mr. Graves opened the slip of paper, and there was a general sigh through the crowd as he held it up, and everyone could see that it was blank. Nancy and Bill Jr. opened theirs at the same time, and both beamed and laughed, turning around to the crowd and holding their slips of paper above their heads. "Tessie," Mr. Summers said. There was a pause, and then Mr. Summers looked at Bill Hutchinson, and Bill unfolded his paper and showed it. It was blank. "It's Tessie," Mr. Summers said, and his voice was hushed. "Show us her paper, Bill." Bill Hutchinson went over to his wife and forced the slip of paper out of her hand. It had a black spot on it. The black spot Mr. Summers had made the night before with the heavy pencil in the coal company office. Bill Hutchinson held it up, and there was a stir in the crowd. "All right, folks," Mr. Summers said, "let's finish quickly." Although the villagers had forgotten the ritual and lost the original black box, they still remembered to use stones. The pile of stones the boys had made earlier was ready. There were stones on the ground with the blowing scraps of paper that had come out of the box. Mrs. Delacroix selected a stone so large she had to pick it up with both hands and turned to Mrs. Dunbar. "Come on," she said, "hurry up." Mrs. Dunbar had small stones in both hands, and she said, grasping for breath, "I can't run at all. You'll have to go ahead, and I'll catch up with you." The children had stones already, and someone gave little Davy Hutchinson a few pebbles. Okay, that's the little boy. That's Mrs. Hutchinson's son, right? Tessie Hutchinson was in the center of a cleared space by now, and she held her hands out desperately as the villagers moved in on her. "It isn't fair," she said. A stone hit her on the side of the head. Old Man Warner was saying, come on, everyone." Steve Adams was in the front of the crowd of villagers, with Mrs. Graves beside him. It isn't fair, Mrs. Hutchinson screamed, and then they were upon her. Okay, that's the end of the story. Okay, so the drawing was the lottery was whoever ended up with this final black dot had to stand in the middle and get a bunch of rocks chucked at them, right? Which seems so weird. It seems so weird. But this is kind of the whole idea of the this dystopia that we're focusing on in this workshop is they had this ritual for years and years and years and years, right? Okay, there was even talk from the old timers that there were other communities who had done away with the ritual, the drawing, the lottery, okay? And some people are like, "Oh, that's crazy." And some people are like, "No, I think it's a good idea." Right? But this gives us the idea that they had no reason to throw rocks at her other than she drew the bad piece of paper, right? Okay? But they just continued to do the wrong thing, a bad thing over and over because the people in front of them had done it, right? Okay, that's the whole idea of this whole dystopia. Okay? All right, so kind of an interesting story, kind of crazy. Okay, so a theme is a life lesson that readers can take away from a story. Complex stories like The Lottery can have several themes. As you read a story, identify the themes by analyzing plot events and characters' words and actions. Okay, my overall theme in this is, you know what? When things aren't right, when things are just don't seem like they're like you can't understand them, hey, stick up for what's right. Find a way to make a change, right? Okay, I want you guys to fill out this. Okay, so page 148, 149 is what you'll be doing today, and we'll go from there. Tomorrow we have today, and then tomorrow's our last day of school for the week. So let's do a good job. Let's hang in there. Let's make sure we're doing things right. Let's please make sure. I know I talked to some of you, and you are finishing books and e-reads and things like that. I love it. Okay, keep it up. I have not looked at our word count for February, but I'll take a look at that and see where we're at. Okay, you guys having a great day, and we'll go from there.